Welcome to Courageous Conviction. Remember that Jeff and I record each Saturday 5 episodes. So please hit the like button, subscribe so you catch all 5 episodes. We usually start out with one theme or topic. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes to really understand it. Some things are more sensitive than others right now, what's going on in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe, and let's jump into this video.
He was a Latin guy from Cuba, whatever. They protect himself. Remember that? You know, and they tried to throw him in jail
on the subway. The guy in the subway.
No, he was in his magazine shop or whatever it was, and some chick comes in and you know, the little kid that she was with, her son tried to take something, and the guy wouldn't let her. And so she said, "I'm going to get my boy after you." And the boy comes down, you know, armed or whatever, and tried to muscle over on this Cuban guy, and the guy protected himself and killed that guy. Well, the guy happened to be black, and it was a big deal. And the DA there tried to throw the guy in jail, and everybody went to the streets and said, "Hey, this isn't right. You can't put this guy in jail for protecting himself. He was a thug. It's all on video. You know, there's no way that we're going to let you have, you know." And this is in New York, where it's, you know, so people still have that because people fear criminal activity. They don't like to not be able to walk out at night. And I don't care if you're Latin or black or white or whatever, Asian, everybody wants security. Kind of like what you're talking about now is that when it comes down to it, we want to protect our families, and we need to be able to do it. And if the government's not going to protect us, we need to be able to protect ourselves.
Well, unfortunately, you know, and this is a true fact, most of your good policemen are resigning. Because this whole neo-Marxist agenda is that they're screening their people they're bringing on now, and they're pretty much becoming service.
Same thing with teachers, you know. I mean, you know, and the teachers are leaving because there's no accountability. Administration is saying, "Well, you know, what's the big deal?" You know. But I remember listening to a conversation yesterday about a teacher and a student in the hallway, and the student was this, you know, 16-year-old girl that was screaming at the top of her lungs because she was caught, you know, recording through the window of another and texting to a student inside of another classroom. The teacher saw that and said, "Hey, you need to get moving along." And she started being belligerent and cussing and said, "You can't tell me what to do." You know, this is like classroom time, right? So now he tries to take her to administration and say, you know, this is unacceptable. She needs to be disciplined. And the principal is like, "Hey, you know, just pat each other on the back and hug, and let's make it all over. And, you know, let's just, like, you know, push this under the rug." I'm like, no, you know, that's, you know, and multiply this by a bajillion events every day. And this is why teachers have no fighting power, because administration doesn't do anything against students that act out this way. And these are girls now that are doing this. So you have a culture now of kids in school that talk back to their teachers, yell at their teachers, cuss at their teachers, throw things at their teachers, and the teachers can't do anything about it. And they can't give them a bad grade if they don't do work. Even though they didn't do any work, didn't turn in any assignment, you can't put a 0 on that assignment. You have to go and put 50%. That is a written down policy.
Yeah, no, and we're dumbing down the youth, right? And this is what happened in Latin America years ago after the 1990 forum, the Sao Paulo Forum, right? The idea was they introduced a new type of socialism called socialism of the 21st century. Anybody can look up there, do their homework on that. Now, unfortunately, Google's taken down the actual minutes of the meeting and things of that nature that were once up there. I can't access the same information because they were really blunt about what their purpose was. And so they've, you know, Google's gotten rid of some of that information.
The erase stuff, you know.
Yeah, it's hidden from us now. So unfortunately for that, but that was the whole idea of the Sao Paulo Forum, and they still have that forum every year, when that whole idea was to reignite and strengthen the communist movement in Latin America, right? And through the education system was where they principally started at, and then they bled over. Elder Christofferson actually was there a few years back and explained about that. He was in Argentina, right? And explained about the fact that the education system is being used to lure our youth away. But, you know, let's go back to this though. Let's go back to that safety thing, Jeff. The root of all this is the actual politics that are being applied globally and here in America. And it's
bad
it's
politics.
through, unfortunately, I hate to say this and be specific, but it's coming through the Democratic Party, right?
Yeah.
And even Thomas Jefferson always said, you know, I love my brother across the aisle. Unfortunately, they hide within them the devil, right? Basically, and I'm kind of putting my words what Jefferson said, but it's always been that way. They've always that softness, that kindness has always been one that has been workable and they'll be able to take advantage of. And I was just listening the other day, and we should pull this up one day, but I was listening to a bunch of there's a podcast out there called After School, and what it is basically a bunch of old like speeches or talks from a lot of great authors, right? And a lot of wise authors, you know, like Dostoevsky and things of that nature, where we can learn from these actual history, and they write about their history and they write going forward, or psychologists and so forth about people and how they acted and how they'll act again in certain situations. I was listening to this and basically talking about this whole idea of niceness. And this was, I think, a Greek philosopher talking about niceness and how niceness, if it's not kept within, what's the word that he used? Instead of being nice, because niceness can be taken advantage of. Niceness can be abused, right? And niceness can be used to lure somebody in because that's their belief system. And yet you can get them to act in a certain way you want them to act, to accept your belief system and to actually destroy their own belief system. And he was saying that we have to be stoic. Stoic is the word that we need. More stoicism, I think, is the word, if that's a word even, but more stoic in the way that we go about things. In other words, we do it, but we're doing it in a way where we still are in control, right? We're not going to let somebody take advantage of us in that niceness. We're going to do it to a point where we still maintain that higher ground. Does that make sense?
You can be civil. Yeah.
Yeah. And
what about using those same strategies and tactics, those, you know, that playbook and of getting people that think a certain way and get them to think a different way, get them to move back. I think a lot of things, are leading that way anyway, because people are getting tired of not having the safety. They're people that didn't used to believe in guns are now starting to think that way. I remember when COVID happened, I went to Cabela's and I was going to buy a gun and I couldn't buy one because nothing was available. And the reason was because there was a whole lineup, and I saw this personally, of multiples of people that didn't look like Republicans. I mean, you can kind of pick them out. We're buying guns, and so when you got, like the hippies and the hikers out there and the granolas buying firearms, because they're worried about things not being safe. I thought that was quite interesting. And I asked, I said, who's buying all these guns? I'm like, not Republicans. Like, oh, it's interesting.
Well, at the end of the day, Jeff, this results in if we don't do something about this. And so what you asked me, what can we do about it? What can people do about it now? What can the majority of our listeners do about it now? The good people who want to value Christian values, vote. Get out to the voting block and vote. If we overwhelm the system with votes, the machine can't cheat.
And don't be afraid to talk. We've got this culture right now where everybody's afraid. I mean, the last time I wore this T-shirt was a couple of years ago. It's kind of a new shirt. And the thing was, maybe a year and a half ago, we walked into this restaurant, very famous kind of pizza kind of joint, and it's like the busiest pizza place you've ever seen, ever, always, every day, any time of day. It's amazing, so and they have this amazing pizza, but they've always been, wildly left-leaning. So we've got this, relatively handsome guy who's not really a guy, kind of a transgender kind of person, so I don't care. He's got a little bit of lipstick on and whatever. But if you took the lipstick off, it'd be just a normal kid, so maybe 19 or something like that. He's our hostess or host.
Yeah.
I have no idea. It's like I try not to offend people, but I could really give a shit.
But I'm not. I'm just going to say truth and facts how they are, and if people get offended, that's their problem.
Right. Well,
we need to go back
when
to
it comes down, he's a guy. So he sits us down to the table, and I've got like this shirt on, and it's being covered by another shirt, so you can only see like the middle part. So somebody that knows Let's Go Brandon with this same kind of outline, has to know that that shirt is there. You know, maybe they've seen a bumper sticker or something like that. Anyway, that this kid, you know, must have seen it, and we're getting like these eyeballs, and the waiter comes out and takes our order, and apparently the owners kind of were walking around and saw the shirt. Next thing you know, we're a quarter of the way through the pizza, and the waiter's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and bring your bill to you."
I thank you for being with us on Courageous Conviction. Remember, there's 5 episodes each week that we put out. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes, so stay with us, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and don't miss tomorrow's episode on Courageous Conviction.